So this is a big day in the nation's biggest commercial fishing port. The port that we all see through the window right here is the reason why the city and why, frankly, southeastern Massachusetts exists, and it is the reason why we continue to thrive. Almost 250 years ago, some settlers came from primarily from Nantucket to check out this place, and it turned out that they determined that it was a much better place to whale from than Nantucket. The nature of the orientation of the harbor to the hinterland and the depth of the harbor and a number of other attributes made it a place where the whaling industry could scale up, and thus began really the original whaling village here in New Bedford, and then ultimately they grew into the city that we have today and that we're so proud of. And it's a port that has evolved over the years. The whaling industry is long gone, and I will hasten to add that none of the things we're proposing today will include bringing back whaling, just in case you were wondering. But it's evolved over time to be hugely successful, primarily in fishing, and emphatically so in commercial fishing. These days, New Bedford is the undisputed center of the commercial fishing industry on the East Coast. It is the largest, the biggest commercial fishing port by dollar volume in the United States for 17 years in a row now, so much so that it's almost a foregone conclusion in that way. New Bedford has arrived as a fishing port, and there's no dispute about that. But the port is also diversifying. We've seen in the last few years tremendous growth in cargo tonnage, primarily coming into the state pier terminals, which are being upgraded now. The cargo traffic, the freighter traffic, has been very visible. Every time one of those vessels comes in, people notice it. And that's a growing sector that is employing a great deal of folks, and we think that in the years ahead, especially with refrigeration and therefore year-round service over there, that's going to grow still more. Recreational boating is growing tremendously as well. Our marina, for the first time, the biggest marina in the harbor, Pope's Island Marina, now has a waiting list, and it's been years since we could say that. The mooring fields are full. The launch that comes in here has, in the last few years, more than tripled its volume. And when it comes to fishing, everything on the East Coast seems to be gravitating here. In the last 3 years, we've seen a 67% increase in out-of-state vessels landing their fish here. There are more, we're told that there are more scallopers based in North Carolina that land their scallops here than they do in North Carolina. We've had scallopers as far south as Key West land scallops here, and as far north as Maine. And that's only growing, 142 out-of-state vessels last year. And then, of course, there's the offshore wind industry. In the next month, we are scheduled to learn which of the three major wind developers is going to win the first procurement for offshore wind electricity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It will be the first major procurement of its type in the United States. The offshore wind industry is an industry that has been growing rapidly in Northern Europe. It has been maturing for about 25 years, and it's all coming here to the United States. And this port will be the launching pad of that industry. All three developers have committed to staging their projects from the New Bedford Marine Commerce Terminal. We have been working with them for years about how to set up shop here, and it's all to the good. So this is a long way of saying that this is a big and busy and complex port, and it's about time that we tell the world so. So we're here to announce today that as bespeaks a port of our size and complexity and growth and significance, we are changing the doing business as name of the Port Management Agency, the New Bedford Harbor Development Commission, to, ladies and gentlemen, the New Bedford Port Authority. Hold your applause for a second. Not all at once. No, this is, we firmly believe that this name change is appropriate for fits the magnitude of this place and significance and stature of this place. And that's what we're really trying to convey. This, for a long time, we just sort of did our thing, and that is to say, fishing business came here. Things were not tightly managed at all. There wasn't a whole lot of planning, and now the place is growing up, and the agency itself has become, over the last few years, has evolved from a traditional harbor master agency into a real economic development agency, a port economic development agency. And that's really important, because what we're trying to do ultimately is fully utilize this asset, this port, because it is a place where industry of many types, fishing, offshore wind, cargo, recreation, and other, ferry, can gain competitive advantages in their markets. And what that means is more economic activity here, more jobs for people in our city and in our region, and that's what it's all about. This is an effort to create more opportunity for the long run. And every city, if they're doing economic development the right way, doubles down on their assets, doubles down on the things they are good at. That's what we're doing today with this announcement and with the strategic plan that I'm going to talk about in a moment. That's the way cities attract capital. That's the way cities grow jobs and opportunity for their residents. And the thing that's unique about ports as economic assets is their permanence. The port's not going anywhere, and for the foreseeable future, people will continue to get food and electricity from the sea. They'll continue to travel by sea as well, and trade by sea. And we're in all those lines of business, or will be in all those lines of business. So for us, this is about the long term. It's about making sure New Bedford is set up well in the global economy and the markets that we participate and thrive in. So the New Bedford Port Authority today is also releasing a draft strategic plan. To my knowledge, this organization has not had a strategic plan. If it's ever had one, it's been an awfully long time, and it's about time that we do that. And so the plan that you see more or less speaks for itself. It is being released in draft form today, so that we can elicit comment from all the various stakeholders here and others. We want robust input on this draft. It has been worked on for a while, and it emanates from a number of market studies and other studies, physical and land studies of the port over the years, so that we have based on those studies, we have a good handle of where our sweet spots lie, and that's, I think, captured in the document. Let me go through it just by way of summary. So there were 6 strategies laid out in the document. The first is that it recognizes that the Port Authority is in the business of providing services. Ports are, when you get right down to it, transfer points between land and sea, whether those transfers are people or goods like fish. This is where the sea and land connect. And the more that our organization can provide services, whatever those services are, whether it's maintaining things like Pier 3, whether it's running a launch here, whether it's whatever it is, we need to do it very well, because that makes the users of the port more competitive. So strategy number 1 is we are going to offer the best services of any port on the East Coast. We want to be known as a place that is committed to excellence when it comes to port services, hands down. We do a great job with it already, and we have in our midst a number of folks who provide those services. They do fantastic work here, and we want to memorialize that commitment to excellence. So that's number 1. Number 2, we want to make sure that everybody in the port has access to useful infrastructure. That means existing infrastructure, as well as infrastructure that we believe we need to build in order to remain competitive and become more competitive. So that means not just piers, but also things like parking lots, as well as rail links and a number of other things that make ports go. Highway access, all these things make ports go, again, as transfer points. And then there are a number of pieces of infrastructure that need to be done. We've been working really hard on promoting harbor dredging. We've had some really good conversations of late with the Baker administration about funding that. It's been something that I've been banging away at for a number of years now, and I think we're starting to gain some traction there. The North Terminal construction, we've had a number of meetings about that. I've been down to D.C. to talk about that. I'll be down there again to talk about our Tiger Grant application, which would create a new North Terminal. The New Bedford-Fairhaven Bridge, it's pretty, it's quaint, it is, however, archaic, and to use the term coined by or used by MassDOT, it is functionally obsolete. We need that bridge to be replaced to open up the northern part of the harbor. Again, these are all things and others that need to be invested in the condition of the state pier as well. We need to promote, we need to be good at business development. That means connecting up people in the port and talking and getting, greasing the wheels between businesses wherever we can. This is especially important when it comes to offshore wind, the arrival of the offshore wind industry. If we have offshore wind companies here, they need to know who should they get their fuel from, or which hotel should they stay in, or what's a good welding shop. All these things and more are things that we can do as the nerve center of the place. Plus, there's also business recruitment, which we've done some of. We haven't had to do that much in the area of fishing and fish processing because the business has come to us more or less. But when it comes to offshore wind and when it comes to cargo and others, we need to be in the game of recruiting business and capital. We need to be advocates at the state and federal level for policies that support our port users. This is the fourth of the 6 items. So we're talking primarily here about being the primary advocates, certainly in Massachusetts, if not on the entire East Coast, for the commercial fishing industry. That's what we've done over the last few years. Last year I testified twice before Congress on matters related to commercial fishing. We deal regularly with, have dealt in the last couple of years with the White House and the Department of the Interior on marine monument issues. We started a couple of years ago the National Coalition of Fishing Communities with Saving Seafood, which is running with it, which is a voice nationally for the commercial fishing industry, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All the work we've done on Sector 9 to advocate there. We need to be that voice for the fishing industry, especially as New Bedford's market share in the industry grows larger and larger over time. We need to promote and market the port, again, to attract business, but also to highlight what we do here. It amazes me still that there are folks, even in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, who do not know that New Bedford is the biggest fishing port in America. Everybody in Massachusetts should know that, but they don't, and we're going to work hard to let everybody know that, and not just Massachusetts, but far beyond. We need to work. We came up with a seafood branding logo last year and a plan, and we're going to promote that. We need to tout what we do, because we as a port do it very well, and unlike, frankly, anybody in America. And then we have to, and this is the last point is this, we have to have a business model that supports all of these efforts. We need to make sure that we have a clearly structured organization where everybody knows their roles, that we have enough revenue coming in from things like parking fees, docking fees, and other services that we provide that allow us to do all these things for the port. That is just a basic about business. Revenue has increased to the agency greatly over the last few years, and it'll continue to grow, and this will enable us to reinvest back into the port wisely. That's what we're doing by doing long-term planning, by providing those services, by marketing, by doing business development, all these things that ports ought to be doing. The punchline to all this is that this organization has its act together, and we're at a time right now in the port's history where if we seize opportunities, we're going to be able to create a great deal of opportunity for the residents of our city and all of Greater New Bedford. So it's exciting for us to be able to spell all this out for you today. I appreciate your listening to all of this, and I want to introduce our director, our port director, Ed Washburn, who's done a fabulous job shepherding all these things together over the last 3 years, and I can tell you he can't be any more excited about this than anybody. But Ed, thank you for your leadership, and I know I've talked for a while. It's your turn.
Thank you, Mayor. So the most important thing I want to articulate is this strategic plan is, it's the chart that we're going to use to plot our course over the next 5 years here in New Bedford, and for the agency itself. We've been very good over the last few years to become less reactive and more proactive with our infrastructure improvements, with everything that we're doing on the docks, with our business development, and I think this plan provides us with the roadmap. We don't set policy. The mayor and the commission sets the policy in terms of what we should be working on. But having a set plan for the next 5 years will trickle down to the day-to-day issues that we're working on in terms of what projects we're focused on, in terms of what businesses we're trying to get to come to New Bedford. And it comes at a really critical time. Over the next 5 years, we know that we're going to continue to grow as a commercial fishing port. We know that cargo is growing. We know that recreational boating is growing, everything that the mayor said. And we also know that offshore wind is a new thing that's coming to New Bedford, and we want to make sure that it happens in a way that is beneficial to the commercial fishing industry. So this plan is going to help us do, as an organization, react to a very quickly changing environment here in New Bedford. We're really excited about having that level of certainty, so we can do we can make our operations fit that model for the next 5 years.
Well done, Ed. No, and it hit the nail on the head. There are some really good opportunities coming our way, and this is an exercise in our getting ready for them in a very thoughtful way based on our experience, as well as all the input we've had from a whole host of studies, some of which are listed in the back of the strategic plan itself. So with all that, I want to thank the entire commission. I think the most important thing that we can do now, most important thing we can do now is not say Harbor Development Commission or HDC anymore, but say Port Authority or NBPA. We've got to just habituate ourselves in that. But I really want to thank all the commissioners, and in particular Brian Rothschild, who's been here and who's been a leader on fishing issues and with the port for a long time now, and who has been such a strong voice, especially for the industry and for the need for research to ensure that regulations satisfy the requirements of Magnuson-Stevens and other fisheries statutes that whose goal is to balance the needs of fishing communities and ecosystems. So Brian, come on up.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ed. The mayor and Ed really hit the nail on the head to explain why we're here today. And I think if we could summarize it in one word, it would be vision. The change of the name from the commission to the authority signifies a new vision for the port, led by the mayor and the director, that will end up with a much more coherent relationship between the various entities, like the marina, the state pier, wind, and fisheries. And so I will be looking forward, as I'm sure all the people in the greater New Bedford area will be looking forward to the operation and results of this new vision. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. All right, let me take questions.
In terms of day-to-day operations, what changes have been?
Yeah, not much. I'll let Ed weigh in on that, Mike, but not much. It's just as Brian captured in his remarks, this gives the organization direction. It puts all those efforts, the day-to-day stuff, in a broader context. I think that's probably the way to think about it.
Yeah, I think anybody that that works for a large and complex organization knows that having knowing what you're going to do from a day to day really boils down from documents like this, right? So you have a really broad, overarching, strategic plan like this, and we're able to sort of plan our year around those impacts. And it goes down to, I mean, every morning we have a 5-minute call among some of the folks that are here. We have our port engineer, we have our marine superintendent Alex, and the rest of the staff, Peter, Shelley, and Randy. The documents that you have in your hands today really do speak to what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So every morning we have a 5-minute call that sort of recalibrates what we're going to focus on today. And every month we have a larger staff meeting where we focus on how are we achieving the goals that are set forth in this plan. And every year we recalibrate too. So this roadmap really is helpful for us in terms of the minutia of getting these plans done happens on a day-to-day basis. And we constantly have to look at what we're doing and figure out how we can do it better. And that happens daily.
So I know this is a draft. How can folks give their input?
So we'll be posting it on the website,
Yep.
on the Port Authority website. Have we updated the website just to make sure it doesn't say HDC anymore?
No.
Don't go to it too fast. We got to get on that. Right? Give us a couple of hours to fix that. But it'll be posted on the website, and there'll be a link to that on the city's website.
And we also have a commission meeting where we'll be talking about it.
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing, and we'll get the data out about that. We really want the benefit. We'd like to get the benefit of everybody's input. There are a lot of people on this waterfront who've been working here for a long time and been living here, and sometimes generationally, and it would be useful to get their input. What we've tried to do with the strategic plan, as Ed noted, is to really pull it all together, so that what we do doesn't feel like it's disparate. It's all all the activities serving a purpose, that there is a direction, and that there's buy-in into it, and I think there will be tremendous buy-in on this plan.
And I know we had talked about kind of the development of the, where the electric plant used to be, and then up north as well. Does this kind of continue under the Port Authority as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we're doing now that the former HGC wasn't really focused on very much was land use planning. So executing the redevelopment plan is going to be a big part of both the strategic plan and what the new Bedford Port Authority will do in the future.
Anybody else? As you can see from this document, there is a lot going on here, and it is a reflection of the hard work of the commission, the hard work of the director, the hard work of the staff. They're really making things go, and I want to thank all of them for their hard work. And I think this is going to, we're all going to be able to say for those efforts, we're going to be able to hold up that plan and say this is what we're all about. And the fact that the rebranding effort that is reflected in this this new name, I think really captures what we are. This is a significant port, and we recognize that, and we're planning, and we're only getting bigger and more successful. So the future is certainly bright for this place. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
See you.
This vacation happen, cleverly merging promotions,
Double points with every purchase?
and cross-referencing travel sites. Aloha! If you can ace your vacation, you can do it for retirement. Get on track with tips at aceyourretirement.org.